I went to the post office and I picked up the call, and I'm hearing from the other side that you have dispatched the license and you are the first bank to whom we have sent the license by post. And Mandeshi was the first to have a MOU with National Skill Development Corporation also.
You actually started with women who probably were not educated, but their daughters have grown up seeing them financially empowered. So how has it impacted the younger generation?
Just not access to finance, but control on finance, and also deciding factor of money where I want to spend. I think that was very key for financial inclusion.
The toughest part of your move from Mumbai to the village, did you ever feel that I want to give up?
I see that women, when they empower themselves, they only not empower themselves individually, right? They will empower family, empower society, empower community.
What is that human instinct which you feel doesn't get destroyed by any adversity?
Our manager said that, Keraba, you do not know to read and write. How will you make your feature your program? She said, I make my poems in my head. Why would I need to read and write? And when they said that, I was just like, they were so confident. And they said, and that was a lesson for me that, never give poor solutions to poor people.
Welcome to another episode of my show. My guest today is a true icon of women empowerment, Chetna Gala Sinha. She is the founder of Mandeshi Mahila Sehkari Bank, India's first bank built by the women for the women. The Mandeshi Bank and the Mandeshi Foundation have touched the lives of 1 million women across rural Maharashtra by providing them banking facilities, access to credit, financial literacy, digital literacy, training in entrepreneurship skills, and much more. So what was the passion and drive to set up this bank? And what impact has this movement created? Let's find out today. Chetna, such a pleasure to have you on my show.
Thank you. I'm honored to be with you and on the show.
Thank you. Apart from everything that I said, the women empowerment, the access to finance, access to credit, and so on, there's one more thing that I fondly remember you for always. And that is our common passion for saris.
Yes.
I remember I would attend the World Economic Forum in Davos, and I would always wear a sari. And there I would be walking in the snow in my saris, and if I would spot another woman doing the same thing, it was Chetna. So always a pleasure to see you in that snow in Davos, in the fairs that you organize for your rural entrepreneurs, which I have seen and been very impressed by, and of course to have you here on my show. So welcome once again.
Thank you, Chanda. And thank you for remembering this, right? So I do remember that in Davos, you wear a sari, but you have those clutters to walk on the ice so you don't fall down.
Absolutely.
And everybody will say, like, make sure you don't fall down. And I always laugh and say, I think we won't fall down, but make sure black suit and pant people don't fall down, wear your clutters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Chetna, before we get into your journey and the journey of the bank, first just tell us what exactly is the scale, the activities, the position of the bank and the foundation today.
So Mandeshi Foundation is running business school, chambers of commerce for women entrepreneurs and empowering women. So today, I'm so proud to actually share with you that we had a Mahotsav in Mumbai at Nare Park, where all Mandeshi women entrepreneurs, Mandeshi women farmers, artisans had come there and displayed and sold their products at Nare Park.
And it was a very impressive fair. I attended it. I was very impressed.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. Even like we say that it's not a exhibitions or it's not a buyers or sellers meet. It is more celebrating artisans. It is more feeling pride of farmers. It is more, even celebrating these women and their struggle and what they have achieved. So there was another reason for this Mahotsav to celebrate was that this year we have impacted 1 million women entrepreneurs.
Heartiest congratulations on that.
Thank you so much, Chanda.
So you provide these people with access to basic banking facilities.
Yes.
You also provide them with credit and, of course, as you said, all the entrepreneurship skills and training and so on. Take us through the journey. What sparked this passion in you to say that you have to create this bank for the women? And what all did you have to do, even to the extent of securing a banking license from RBI and then scaling this up? How did it all happen?
So actually, I had never thought that I'll be setting up the bank. I mean, it was not even in my mind to do something very close to that. I was part of Jayaprakash Narayan's, who is a famous Gandhian, part of the movement. And I actually met him in my when I was in college last year doing my undergraduate program. And he came to the campus and he said that, I want young people to work in Bharat. And he said that भारत, सही भारत तो गांव में रहता है, तो आप सबको तो बच्चों को गांव में जाना चाहिए. And I was so fascinated about this whole idea. So I decided that I will travel with him. And very luckily, I got an opportunity to travel with him across India in countryside, where I met my husband, who is a farmer leader, local farmer leader, and also was part of Jayaprakash Narayan's movement. Fell madly in love with him. And then I decided to marry him. So I left my job. Later on, I was teaching economics. I left that and went to his village in Maswad, in Man Taluka, in Satara district in Maharashtra. And then both of us were working with farmers. We were working with women. I mean, because this is a drought area. And Vijay, my husband, was trying to work. At that time, Maharashtra had employment guarantee scheme. And because of drought, farmers did not have any crop in their field. So he was asking for work wages for farmers who would work for the construction, whatever, but government should provide a site of work to them. So this movement was going on and I became a part of that movement. And there I saw that, these women would come for the construction of the road and they would break stones. And I was like, when I saw them breaking stone in summer, in April, temperature was nearly 48 degrees Celsius. And can you imagine, these women were breaking stones in that temperature. So I felt like these women, I mean, why should they be doing this? So I just started talking to these women. And when I was like regularly meeting them, what can we do and all that. So they would very nicely tell me that, our problems are big and you have come from Mumbai. You go back. You don't have to spend.
Understand.
Yeah, you will not understand. That made me more intrigued toward this. And then I became very stubborn. And of course, I'll come every day and want to talk to you. But at the same time, I did realize that whatever I was thinking, very big things with the movement and theory and ideology about revolution, change, it wasn't something that I am there to tell them or teach them. They knew exactly what they want.
Oh.
So many women, actually, when I went regularly to them, some of the women came and they said, you know what, we want to do savings. And so I was like, that is so simple. Go to the banks and open the account. There were 2 banks in our village also. So they said, no, but banks are not opening the account. And I was like, okay, I'll come with you. And so we went to the bank. And we said that, I said, they are not asking for any credit or any grant or any subsidy from the government. What they are asking is just to safe place to save hard-earned money. So why can't they open the account? And bank manager said that they are not an affordable client for us. Why? Because they want to save 3 rupees a day. And that is not an affordable thing for us. And I felt, but they have all the rights to do that, to open the account. So then I thought, why not set up the bank for these women? And we decided. And I mean, you are like having a banking background, right? You would know, thinking one day, okay, set up the bank. I came to Mumbai, went directly to Reserve Bank of India, and I said, like, you know, these women want to set up the bank and we are planning, so what should we do? And the officer there, she told me, like, you know what you're talking. And I was like, yeah, but these women really want to set up the bank. Fortunately, at that time, Marathe Committee report had come in Reserve Bank of India, which had some suggestions that if you really want to include women, tribals, youth in the banking system, then the cooperative banks should be started. So that window was opened in RBI where you can ask for banking license for women or for tribal, for youth. So then we thought, okay, under this window, we can give an application.
Okay.
So we decided, okay, we'll give the application. I got all the details, and it was also in cooperative banking. There are like categories of urban centers. So our center, Maswat, came in a D category, which required only 12 lakhs of capital. So 1.2 million rupees of capital. And at the same time, when you apply for the banking license, the numbers of members were like you should have beyond 1,000. So I felt it is possible for us to, like, you know, mobilize that much of capital. So I just went back and I told our women that, you know, we will set up our bank and we'll do it. And women were very excited. So we mobilized, mobilizing capital actually, Chanda, was not so difficult, which was, I was really surprised that these women were able to, like, you know, mobilize the capital.
So you mobilized the capital from amongst them only?
As a member, So it was more like a community capital.
Right.
Each member would invest the amount. And they themselves were so excited. So these women actually said, we will buy 15 shares, 20 shares. But they said, we will get other women to buy it also, to bring that much of capital. And they were very excited. So we mobilized the capital, and then I went to Reserve Bank. I was prepared. I was like ready with,
done.
You know, yes. Took the file and came. And from Maswat to Mumbai, it takes 8 hours, more than nearly 12 hours to come by ST bus. And I was just like, you know, I'm going to RBI and asking for the banking license. As soon as I entered the office of the CGM and the director, they said, do you know what you are talking? You have brought the proposal. All your promoting members are non-literate. They have a thumb impression. On what ground Reserve Bank will give the license? We cannot issue a license to the bank whose promoting members are non-literate. How are you going to manage that? I was so nervous, and I was like trying to convince that, you know, these women will do, they are doing their businesses, they are managing the finance. But they said, we don't think we can issue the license. I went back to Maswat on the same day in the bus. And when I met our women, I was actually literally weeping, like crying. And I was telling them that, you know, we will not get the license because all of you do not know to read and write. You know, these women, when they heard that, they said, like, why are you crying? We will learn to read and write from today. Amazing. And our literacy classes started. And with me, my colleague was there. We both of us, we would go on bicycles from one village to another. Women would be ready to start the class.
Oh.
They would break the stone whole day, do that wage work, at night cook the food for the family, and then sit for the class. After 5 months, I thought we should go again to Reserve Bank of India. In fact, I didn't think so much, but because they were continuously talking in the classes also. We have to set up the bank. We should know to read and write. We will go to Reserve Bank. So I had no choice. I wasn't sure that we are going to get the license or not. But they were reminding me every day that we have to go. And so then after 5 months, we went again. But at that time, I didn't go alone. Because I myself did not have a confidence to convince the RBI. So with me, 15 women accompanied, and we have picture of those women.
Okay.
Accompanied to Reserve Bank of India. And when we went into the office of CGM and director there, you know what women said? they said that you denied the license because we cannot read and write. But they said we cannot read and write, but we can count. Right? And they said that ask us to calculate the interest of any principal amount. If we fail, don't issue the license. But tell your officers to do it without calculator and see who can calculate faster. So that was a very big lesson for me there itself, that how much confidence these women have. We came back and we were just like, I was in my work, women were doing their work, and we said, I was thinking we won't get the license. After 5 months, I get a trunk call.
Oh.
And it was like at that time, we couldn't do phone calls. It was in late 80s. Late 90s.
Late 90s. Okay.
And 97. So I went to the post office and I picked up the call. And I'm hearing from the other side that, you didn't even inquire. We have dispatched the license with all the compendium of RBI. So you go through it and we have dispatched the license. And the officer said that you are the first bank to whom we have sent the license by post. I was like, oh my God. So that's how we got the banking license. And it was just interesting to see, like, women were like, we knew that we are going to get the license. I was so, amazed by their confidence. So that's how, it was like a long struggle, but it was very interesting and a lot of lessons in that also, that how women made sure and they were so confident. In spite of all that hard work they were doing, they wanted to save. And they were so sure that we want to do savings. We will get the license from RBI. We will run the bank.
Tell me, why is it so important for them to save?
One thing is that the same thing actually I asked our women also, right? That do you have money to save? Because you are wage laborer. Most of them did not even have a house. They are staying on the street. So do you even have a money? Because we always think that you need to have some surplus money to save. And they were like, we always keep money aside and we keep somewhere in dabbas. We keep somewhere
in dabba, grains ka dabba.
And so that we can save it also, and it is not disclosed to the family. Yes. So in emergency, we can use that money. So, and when these women used to say that also, so I would say, like, you can give it to some elderly person or something, but everyone wants to save. So, and they used to say that why would we need money? We would need money in emergency if somebody is sick in the family, if somebody want to send child to the school or, pay fees. In summer, they would say that in summer we get sick. Why? Because we work in heat and then we just get like health issues and we need a medicine.
We are not able to work for a few days.
And so at
need
that
the
time
savings
we need
to
money.
pull you along for those days.
So these are the reasons, and these are I felt like we never think that, how saving is so important for their survival. It is nothing to do with surplus. There was one lady, Kantabai, you met her actually in the Mahotsav. She was selling those iron utensils.
Yes.
She said that she wanted to save because she wanted to buy a tarpaulin sheet to cover her family because of the heat. Now you can imagine, like, how the heat, just that heat stress also, so much for poor people, it is such a big issue. So these,
And you know what, sometimes we don't realize, but what is going on in their mind is that even if they spend something on the tarpaulin, what they are actually saving is medical costs, because they are preventing their family from falling sick on the heat. So it's better to spend on the tarpaulin and not spend on trying to cure illnesses of
exactly.
people.
Prevent that.
So, as you were going through this journey, of course, you said that you were teaching economics here in Bombay. You left this urban life. You went to a small village in Maswar. Personally, what was that change like for you? What was the toughest part?
Initially too, I was so excited for everything, like I'm doing this and all that. But later on, when I really shifted in the village and in Maswat, uh, so the first thing, sometimes like, I mean, I laugh and sometimes I always say like, Bombay girls, they will not realize they're so adventurous that next day if you go there, what will happen? So with me actually, my husband Vijay, he had a mud house.
Okay.
And in Maswat there were no, so morning I wanted to go to, I had not stayed in his house before.
Okay. So you
Because
just
it
got
was-
married and went.
Yeah. Before I had stayed, but I used to stay at Circuit House
Oh.
with the government house. So there
So
all
there
the
were
facilities
facilities.
are there. And family was, there was a resistance from his family. So there was no like an opportunity to go to his house. It was, he would come to my house in Mumbai and all. But so I had never been to his house after marriage, and then we were staying for quite long after marriage also in Mumbai. But then when I said that actually I have decided to marry because I want to work there. So when I went to his house the next day, when he said for toilet you'll have to go out. And not only that, he told me that when you go out, take with water for toilet, you take the sticks because pigs will come there. I mean, I'm sharing this now, but at that time it was like, what? What are you talking? And so that became actually, and I started laughing at myself only that, I didn't think when I'm thinking leaving Mumbai, there are so many issues. And that actually became a very big issue of that women need toilets. Right? So I was like with the JP movement talking about revolution and everything. But the simple thing that if toilets are not there, how can women survive there? So that became a big issue. And then I started talking to women because it was, for me, that was a whole supporting network also. Right. That this problem is there, let's do something for that, right? So then we said, okay, what should we do for the toilets then? So I mean, Chanda, I should tell you that, in villages, women are so smart in finding the solution. So I was like, hum log morcha nikalenge. We'll do that. And these women said, not for toilet. So then I said, what do you mean by that? They said, we'll find the way. And they told me, let's meet tomorrow early morning at the temple, 6:30. Maswat has a big temple. All villagers come there. So we'll deal the issue there. I wasn't sure what actually they are telling me. But I said, okay, let's meet there. And so they said, we'll stand at the entrance of the temple, give flowers to everyone, every man particularly, and then ask them that, do you have a toilets in your house? And then in Maharashtra, they tell, either they tell their wife as a Lakshmi or Malkin, right? Okay. So they said that, okay, so do you have a toilet? And where your Lakshmi is going for the toilet, or where your Malkin, who is the owner, is going for the toilet. And also, men would buy a motorcycle, they would bring to the temple new motorcycle to show the god, offer that pedas to God. And at that time you would say, okay, you have a motorcycle, but do you all have toilets? So in temple, these toilet subject became a very big, and everybody used to get so angry with, the reaction would be like, in temple you are talking about the toilets, right? But then these women said that imagine every morning you don't feel, but how women must be feeling it. And that became such a big issue that everywhere in newspapers it came, and we just wrote a letter to district collector. And the issue was resolved, and we got the toilets. So there are like, coming from Mumbai, there were so many such issues. But at the same time, I found that there is a very different way of dealing these things. Yeah. But I would say that, you never you always remember these things.
Yeah, I think these became a force for you to start thinking about this movement and every step that you took to solve these problems. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you have put it very nicely in that way. Yeah.
So coming back to the Mandeshi Bank per se, while you were taking these steps and enabling all the women entrepreneurs or the rural women to open their bank accounts, I think India also went through a substantial kind of push and development in financial inclusion.
Yes.
Around 2014, this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana was announced, where millions and now I think crores of accounts have been opened for those people who were otherwise unbanked. The government also announced this direct benefit transfers where they said that subsidies should automatically go to the bank account and not just be doled out in cash and so on. So how did these kind of initiatives help you in your movement or give a thrust to your movement?
So one thing, like as you mentioned about Jan Dhan, or we can say like JAM, right?
Yes.
Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile, particularly.
Yes.
That made a very big change. Like mobile and Aadhaar link,
yes,
which will entitle me for direct benefit transfer, and I will get in my account. And another thing I want to state here, that when these Jan Dhan accounts were being opened, banks used to say like, zero balance account. But at Mandeshi, women would say, why zero balance account?
We have the savings.
We will do savings, no zero balance account. We will have our account with saving. And they were very clear that they would say that we don't want Ujjwala Gas Yojana account. Why? Because it's a collective, collective account, right? Husband and wife. They said, we want our own account, because we want to make sure that when the money should be withdrawn. So it was very interesting that Jan Dhan came, it provided an access. Women got an opportunity to open the account, but women also got an opportunity and were empowered that how are we going to spend. It will be our decision to spend, right? It's a control. Yes. So just not access to finance, but control on finance, and also deciding factor of money where I want to spend. I think that was very key for financial inclusion. And that made women plan their money in such a way that when and where I want to spend. They started thinking that smartphones are important for us. We will buy. I mean, Mandeshi was the bank to provide the loans to buy the smartphone. So when women did that.
But this is so interesting, because with all this push of financial inclusion came digital banking, which means that banking was being done through digital devices, smartphones and so on. The initial reaction of anybody would be to say, this is all technology. This is a constraint actually for rural women. How will they adapt to it? But my personal belief is that technology is actually an enabler. It's an equalizer, it's a leveler. So you are also saying that, this was no longer a constraint. They actually adapted to it, and they made full use, so to say, of whatever benefits or whatever possibilities digital banking was giving them.
Yeah, and I mean, you being a banking coming from a banking sector, when this whole digitization was happening and everything, there was so much excitement, right?
Yes.
And I find that, technology, as you mentioned, is an enabler, and that does not decide that, from which caste you are coming, which class you
are. How much money you have in your bank account.
Nothing, that does not. So these women, they felt that first time in our life, we couldn't go to high school, but there is an opportunity for us to use this banking. So it gives me I remember a story, one of our women's experience, that one woman came to the bank and she said that, I want to have a digital wallet of Mandeshi. I have downloaded the app also, but I have some problem. We don't want just PIN number. And we were like, we'll do financial literacy, we'll do digital literacy, you will remember the PIN number. They said, no, find some solution. So then anyway, of course, technology was there, but we were in remote area, supply side, it was always difficult to convince the tech people that, what people want. And they were very clear. So then finally we said that, okay, from our technology suppliers, we told them that why can't we have face recognition, which is now, so of course everyone have it, but this is I'm talking about in 2016. So then we had this face recognition. When we did that, you know what our women said? They said that mera PIN number to koi bhi chura lega. Nobody is going to cut my head and use it. And when they said that, I was just like, they were so confident. And they said, हम पढ़े लिखे नहीं हैं, लेकिन हमको कुछ भी मत दो. And that was a lesson for me that, never give poor solutions to poor people. They are smart.
I mean, this was, of course, access to savings and bank accounts and so on. And then you started giving them access to credit. But all these women, they were not trained in business, they were not trained in entrepreneurship. They, did not, they were the first time borrowers, they didn't
Yes.
have credit history. So, how did you build this, whole system of starting to lend to them?
So actually, when Mandeshi was started, we didn't have joint liability group also at that time. We had more SHG groups, and women were coming and doing SHG groups, savings and everything. And we had this whole new product where women can take a loan, and only they used to say that I want to repay weekly. Or I want to repay daily. They would say that.
Achha.
So then we said, okay, design the credit product this way. I do remember one of our Vanita Pise, she came as she wanted a loan to buy a buffalo. And she said that I'm buying a buffalo for vending milk. And I will get my milk payment every week. So I want my, not EMI, I want EWI. So weekly installment. And so we said, okay, so we designed the product that way. So based on the cash flows, we used to design the product. And it was interesting that then, these women, when she got the buffalo, she made some money, Vanita Pise. Then she said that, that part of that, rearing the buffalo, my other family members can do. But now I want to buy a machinery and want to make a paper cups and paper plates and start that business. When she said that, I was like, she's much ahead in her thinking than the bank. So then we thought that, we should do something. And then with foundation, we started a business school for rural women. So it is not only like, how do you manage your finance? If you have an idea of business, how are you going to set up that business? How much machinery is going to cost you? What is the working capital you require? So bank is there to provide you hypothecation loan for machinery or even provide your working capital. But all these calculations women will have to do. So then we started from Foundation, which is a grant-based organization which gets supports from several philanthropic organizations. So we started a business school for rural women. And I particularly say business school because it was not just like, giving the skill training of tailoring and beauty parlor and leaving it, but provide them the skill training, how to make paper cups, paper plates, from where to buy machine, then how to market your products, how to brand your products. You saw in Mahotsav also, every women had their own brand, right? Packaging. So we set up the business school for rural women, and we set up from Foundation chambers of commerce for these women, so that they can become a business owner, not just like, having a livelihood training or skill training and doing something very small, but even have a big ideas of business. Some women will do small, but some women will aspire to scale the business. So then we started these two front platform for our women under Foundation. So actually Mandeshi provides a very comprehensive solution. One is bank, the other is Mandeshi Foundation, which has a business school, chambers of commerce. We have radio also, where women can share their experiences.
So firstly, it's so pleasant to hear that, for rural women, there can be business school, there can be chambers of commerce. It's just so nice to hear something like this. And then you spoke about this very interesting thing, the radio. I actually met at your Mahotsav, I met this lady jockey, who's a jockey on the community radio. So tell us more about it. What gave you that idea? And I think it's such a powerful idea because it becomes a platform for them to share thoughts, to make their voices heard. So tell us a little bit more about this.
So it's very interesting. I mean, again, it was in 2009. I was not thinking like we'll set up a radio or something and all that. But we continuously used to have a drought. And, during drought, what would happen is that you never know, in some villages, there is no water, there is not, and they would need tankers. even the administration would, of course, they would send the tankers and all, but it would take like days to get the tanker and all. So we were thinking like, there should be some platform where people can, of course, go to the government office, but where they can come and say that, this problem we are facing it. And area where we are working is like very hilly area, and villages are really, really far. So we thought, at that time that why don't we start something like, sharing voices, a platform of where the voices of the villagers can be shared. That's how this whole community radio idea came up. When we were operating the radio, once what happened is that one lady, Kerabai, she came to the bank to mortgage gold, and she was mortgaging gold. So I asked her that, why are you mortgaging gold? It's a precious jewelry, right? So she was like, don't you realize there's such a bad drought and there's no fodder, no water? And she said that I can mortgage gold and buy fodder, but even if I mortgage gold, I will not get water. So you should do something for that. So then we started a cattle camp where farmers can bring their animals and they can stay with their animals, and Mandeshi Foundation will provide a water and fodder at one place.
Okay.
Within a week, nearly 12,000 animals came with 7,000 farmers. So when we started this cattle camp, we were having radio, but we were using not that extensively. But one lady, Kerabai, she used to sing songs of hope in that cattle camp every evening.
Okay.
And she would every evening she would tell all the farmers that we'll get the rains, and she would sing the songs of rain.
Okay.
And she became so popular that she came to our radio and she said that, I will feature my program on radio.
Oh, wow.
And Chanda, I should tell you that, we are so much like,
I think we are constrained in our thinking.
Exactly, you gave the words. In our thinking, we are so constrained that our manager said that, Kerabai, you do not know to read and write. How will you feature your program? She said, I make my poems in my head. Why would I need to read and write? You just give me time, I will do it. And so then she started doing her program. And she became so famous. Now she's called RJ Kerabai.
Wow.
And different radios invite her. And one of the writer, Anand Bakshi songwriter, his son wrote a book on radio jockeys. And he was interviewing her. And in his chapter, he asked her that, how did you learn to sing? And you know what she said? She said that, I got married at the age of 13. And at the age of 14, I became pregnant. And I was feeling hungry continuously. And to forget hunger, I started singing.
Oh.
So you feel like these women, they have so much of wisdom. Oh my God, you learn so much from them. And so then she became a role model. So with Kerabai, other women also came. And now, and it has become a platform for women, like those women who came to Mahotsav, who have become very successful. Those women who sell the products on e-commerce platform, on open network digital commerce. They do the radio program, they get it taped, and we give that radio program to other radios also, so that they can market their product.
Okay.
So now this radio is being used for various things.
We're talking, of course, about financial empowerment, financial inclusion, but you and I know that financial empowerment, I think, is just the basic foundation of a much bigger empowerment.
Yes.
It gives the women not just, ability to open bank account or save or earn something, but it gives them that confidence of financial decision making. I think it gives them confidence about themselves. They get heard more in their families, in their communities, like they become, I think, more valued partners or members in the families and communities. Have you seen that really happen? What kind of change have you seen in the community and their approach towards women?
So you give a very great sentence like valued partner, right? And that is so valuable for these women. So I'll share with you another example of one of our women. She is actually Paravet.
Okay.
And she gives vaccination and insemination to goats and chicken.
Okay.
She comes from the Dalit community. And when she started this, everybody was making fun of her, like insemination in goats and what is she doing? And, villagers would also make fun. And then your in-laws will say like, stop this work and you get into the work what you were doing. Yeah, and do it. And she was like, no, I want to pursue this, Sunita Kamble. So she wanted to pursue this. And then when she became really, because then gradually people, all other women who were rearing goats and chickens, they started inviting her. And then she was given an award by Niti Aayog.
Okay.
And she flew to Delhi and she came back and got with an award. And her village Sarpanch, and she must have felt herself very so proud. So she had made her very big cutout of her going by plane to Delhi. And that cutout was displayed outside the village. And she said that, everybody is inviting me like with her to celebrate her. So come to my village. So I said, okay. When I entered a village, I saw that very big cutout and I was so surprised. And I went to her house and I said, oh, I really like that cutout. So she said, of course, I made it, that I flew. I'm the first lady from this village to go by plane to Delhi. And I made this cutout and my husband was also very proud. And this lady, she told me that, okay, now today they have invited us, both of us at Gram Panchayat. Otherwise, nobody will invite me. But I've been invited in Gram Panchayat by Sarpanch of the village. And there I have to speak. And she's like smiling and laughed and said that, who will otherwise from my caste will invite me to speak from the stage? But today I'm speaking. So you see that, on one side, Sunita was breaking century-old caste barrier.
Yes.
On the other side, Sunita was breaking century-old gender social norms.
Yes.
And on the third side, she was doing all this with so much of celebration and pride. So I think it's very interesting that, financial access to finance, control on finance. But these women not only change their lives, but they make their families very proud about them, and their communities, they go with the communities. So communities also celebrate them. So, and I see like, hundreds and thousands of women actually doing that. And I also see in the villages that all the village women will come together and say that, okay, get your bank person. Now I'm seeing with the schools also.
Okay.
That schools are coming forward and they are telling us that, why don't you open a school bank for our children?
Okay.
So I think that change happens not only individual level, not only family level, not only community level, but at a society level. That schools are thinking that, our girls, if they want to go for STEM education, they will need form, fees and other, because there is expenses around it. So if they can save from very young age. So this change is really, bringing, I can say now that, the revolution which I was thinking is being, you can see that revolution.
It's so heartening to know that you're saying that the community is also reacting positively. So you're saying you're seeing a difference in the approach, the fathers, the husbands, the brothers, the sons. Because if that part of the community doesn't change in their approach, the real movement, the real change cannot happen. So you're saying that change is happening.
In fact, there is very funny story, one of the story. One of a cane worker, she was there in Motsa also. She used to sell those toplis. She makes that cane product. And now she has become very smart. She has taken a training also. But her husband would always used to drink. She would come in the weekly market and sell her cane products. And in 2019, I think, she got an award as a Women Exemplar Award.
Okay.
And so she got an award from an IPS officer, women IPS officer. So she put that award outside her house, that big photo. And her husband, after 1 week, she came to the office and she said, I'm so thankful that, you all nominated my name and my life has changed. And we said, how did your life change? And she said that, after my getting this award, my husband always used to drink and loiter around on the roads. And now he's saying like, how can he can do that? Because his wife has got an award from IPS officer, lady IPS officer. So he has stopped drinking.
Fantastic.
So you hear like very different stories.
Yeah, so something can have a different impact altogether, which you never always think of. And tell us about the younger generation, especially of girls, because when you started this movement, you actually started with women who probably were not educated, who had not seen this kind of financial inclusion, but their daughters have grown up seeing their mothers, financially empowered. So how has it impacted the younger generation?
So one, though I saw that these women were so firm. We also had this by CMOU, so university, deemed university, where these women always felt that, we feel very bad to say that we are not 10th pass, or we are just 8th grade. So we started this for women also, that if you want to complete your graduation, you can complete your graduation. And they were very like, we want to invest in our daughter's education. But when it was not easy for all to do that. And how did I, with running this bank and foundation, how did we come across the young generation was that one girl, very young girl, Parvati, she came to the bank and she said that, I am going to high school and I will be getting my summer vacation. After that, I go to high school, which is in another village, and give me job for 2 months. So we were like, you are just 14 years old, and what job are you going to do? So she said, at least give me a job of writing the letters. I will do that. My handwritings are good. So we said, okay, then what you want to do? So she said, don't give me salary, nothing. After 2 months of writing, I will just give me bicycle to go to school. And we were like, why? So she said that because my high school is so far, there is no bus facility, and my parents will drop me out of the school if I don't, because I have to go to high school. And if I have bicycle, I will be able to go on my own. But otherwise, nobody is going to drop me in the school. So I realized she knows the answer actually, that what she wants. And it's a matter of getting a bicycle. So we started this bicycle program. And Chanda, I'm so proud to share with you that nearly more than 14,000 girls got the bicycle. And now I'm seeing these young girls, those who were got the bicycles, they became a very good athletes. So our area is known for sheep and goat rearers. And these communities, they are very tough because they are nomadic. So they also wander a lot, and even children do that. But these girls, some of the girls who got the bicycle, but it was not only bicycle to go to school, but even in the sports. And my eldest son, he started the sports program, so sports academy. And these girls, 3 of our girls went to state of Virginia to run marathon. One of the girl who is Kajal, she's in field hockey team of under 16, and she played in Iceland and got a silver medal. So it's and these girls are becoming coaches, they are becoming...
What kind of sports are they playing?
So we mainly have athletics, now we have swimming, now we have a stadium where they can play basketball and all. And it's not just sports to get the medals and go, that is there. But also you train yourself, because so many people get the training and go for the police bharti. So they look for the jobs in police. They can look for the jobs in coaches. So it's also sports and sports skilling center. So that skills around the sports where they can get those skills and then they can look for those jobs. So young generation, it's very interesting. And then they have technology. Right? So everything they will watch in whatever field they are. And they want to, like one girl who is in physics, she says that I want to become an astronaut. And we have a planetarium. So we have this mobile planetarium at the academy. So these kids can watch the different films inside the planetarium. And so they get these ideas that I want to become astronauts. So it's very like how children, it's not just I only dream about it, but I make sure that, according to my dream, I do it, I go towards it. So the young generation with the technology, they are weaving their dreams very differently.
And you are helping them weave those dreams. When you give loans to these women, what is the size of the loans? Varies from what, 5,000 rupees to a few lakhs of rupees or thousands of rupees? And do they use it for survival or business or both or everything? And how has your experience been in terms of repayment of these loans?
So, from beginning, actually, Chanda, when we were designing the credit products, it was very interesting. And this story I hardly share, but there was one lady who was money lender. And she came to know that, we are setting up the bank. And very smartly, she told me once that, come and meet me once day. Sakubai, her name is. And so I just went, and she said, I know you are setting up the bank and it's great. I'm also the member and all. But she told me that, don't make the mistakes what banks are making. So I said, what do you mean by that? So she said, you understand the cash flows of the people. She had seen me like walking in the weekly market and all. And then she said that, see, what is their cash flow? See, she was like, laughingly, she just mentioned that these banks don't understand. They give loan to poor people and then they think that monthly they will pay the installment. She said, I'm doing money lending. I know. And so you have to see the cash flow and design your repayment. Of course, she didn't use those words, repayment and all, but she said, and you collect the money that way. And then she said that, I have agents who move around and collect my money. You will have to do that. You go to their doorstep and collect the money. So I was like, okay. And then she became a very good friend, actually. And she would laugh and said that, see, I have not gone to the school, but I'm advisor to banker. And even now she says. So it was, we used to, so for weekly market, we had a cash credit, which means that, we used to see that money lenders would stand in the weekly market, give the loans to the vendors. Even evening, they want to buy something, then immediately they will give. Morning also they have given. So they would give. And then before leaving, whatever collection these vendors have done, they would give to money lender, saying that we don't want to take money at home. But whatever money they have used, money lender would charge 10%. So 100 rupees he has given, he would say, okay, give me 110 in one day.
10%.
And then if it is delayed, then he would calculate 10 rupees per day.
10% per day.
On 100. So then I would say, like, if they are giving at this rate, why are you not taking us from the bank? So they said, but you don't give us no morning, we want evening also we may need. So we have designed the cash credit product, which has a maximum cap is 20,000 for vegetable vendor. So they can take the money, repay. So every product is designed in different way. Then these women who are selling milk vendors, there the repayment is every 15 days. Every 15 days the person comes, because the milk cycle, dairy cycle is 15 days. So it's very interesting that in agriculture also, when Mandeshi has given loan to farmers also. And everyone would say, like, farmers, how can you manage the repayment? Because there are so many failures, these, that. So we say the first thing is that you have to understand the cash flow of farmers. The second is that you have to, if you see that drought and all that, then you have to ask for restructuring in that case. But actually, if there is a discipline, they never tell about the restructure. They also want to repay the loan. And another thing in repayment, like as I mentioned, that check the cash flows. Second, how much amount they want. Third, as you mentioned, that are these consumption loan? That in Mandeshi, we have been very clear from the beginning that for whatever loan you want, don't lie. Like there were women who came to bank and first she said that I want a loan to buy buffalo. Then we found out actually she wanted to repay the money of money lender. So we said, it's fine. Don't say buffalo. Tell us that. Because that is very important. Sometimes they, then your role of financial literacy will come, right? That for what purpose you are using the money and paying the interest.
Yes.
So financial literacy then explains them. And it has happened that we have this very mandatory that if you are doing saving or credit, you go through financial literacy. And we have seen that many women who decide that we want to take a loan of 10,000, 15,000 rupees, after taking financial literacy, they will say we want only 7,000. So that makes them think about how am I going to spend my money. And now we have like range. We also have a housing loan.
Okay.
And it's very interesting. With housing loan, what we have done is that you take 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs for housing. But if you are owning the house or if you're co-owning the house, then you get a rebate in interest.
Okay.
So that husband gets motivated to share the house and entitle ownership of the house. So that's how there are a range of products. And for businesses, we have like 5 to 10 lakhs. But I think most important part is that if you understand the cash flow. And one another thing with repayment, we have seen that what happens if she cannot repay, right? That also is a very big thing. So I remember that one woman had come to Mandeshi, where she came to Mandeshi and she said that, you know, we have multiple loans. My husband has run away. But I cannot run away because I have my children. I have to take care. I want them to go to school. So I've come here that, you know, I won't be able to repay your loan immediately as it was decided. Now our recovery officer, our manager got really nervous, like, how can you do that? No, 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 you will have to repay. I was like, just wait. You have such a great client where she's coming here and telling you, right, that I will repay the loan. So then we decided, you know, that we should do debt counseling.
Okay.
And when you do debt counseling, so in her case, what we did is, okay, who are your lenders? Bring the lenders also together. That she doesn't have money, her husband has run away. Her lenders will collectively take a call and how can we get her support? Of course, in some cases it works, in some cases it doesn't work if it's a big amount. But I think when you're working with first-time borrower, who do not have a credit history, who do not have a score, you have to work out in a different way. There are going to be failures. So what? But you can find out the solution. And another thing which we did with foundation also worked very hard with bank is that design a pre-credit score for women.
Okay. So on what basis do you design that score?
So it is like there are parameters. So one is of course like, you know, full KYC what you have. You know, then she's doing business, then Udyam Aadhar. Then how is she paying the electricity bill? What is the history of that? Her digital transaction history. So based on that, those marks are given. And based on that, she can assess herself and decide that what is her appetite for the loan. And if she meets the score, then this is the amount where you are eligible for. So she herself also start thinking that this is, in fact, I'd say that, you know, what we get in our banking sector, this whole rating from the agency,
and the
I feel
scores.
like, I feel like, you know, they have to unlearn a lot of things and learn from these women how you have to give the score and everything, because these ratings sometimes become more exclusion than inclusion. So these are the things which actually we have learned from women, that how you do these lending and repayment and cash flows and how design in such a way, or sometimes if necessary restructure.
You spoke about agriculture, education and so many things. I think these are all, you know, the other infrastructural facilities that have a lot of impact on empowerment, you know, positive, negative, both ways. So let's talk about education. Education is the foundation. If anybody has to become empowered, I think education is the foundation. So what was the literacy landscape of the women when you started working with them? And have you seen that literacy landscape change? And, you know, did it become a constraint? Did it help as you were moving towards financial inclusion?
So actually, the literacy rate was very low in our area. In Satara district, Man Taluka, where we started, was the lowest literacy rate. And one of the reasons also was that it's very hilly, did not have a schools and very remote. and migration. I think the bigger challenge now in the infrastructure of education is that even if you are graduated, what are you going to get it, right? That is the whole thing. So the big thing I feel with the education is skilling, which we started with. And 1, 2, 3 up one programs are such like Paravet, which Mandeshi decided. Now government of Maharashtra has adopted that as a Pashu Sakhi.
Okay.
And have been like in all the villages. So I do think that when we work in such like an area of education, one is the formal education, which everyone wants to take it, but one is the skilling, right? And where the skill gives you then either the income generation or jobs. Now in our area, of course, industry is not there, so everything comes towards employment entrepreneurship. And Mandeshi was the first to have a MOU with National Skill Development Corporation also. And we were the first in 2009 to tell them that in India, where in the rural areas industries are not there, even if you skill, from where they are going to get the jobs. So you have to have the component of entrepreneurship, or you have to have that infrastructure also come in, that you educate, but there are industries to get the job.
So when you give them skill training, especially in entrepreneurship, I mean, you told us many stories about how people have taken up different kind of sources of income in that sense. But have these entrepreneurs or these women entrepreneurs also become enablers for other women to start earning income? In the sense that do they become leaders and then the others join them?
It's very interesting, Chanda. And when we said that, we impacted 1 million women, we were analyzing our own data. Data is like so important. And we found out that out of that, 30% of the women, sometime or the other, have employed other women. That is one. And when they employ, another difference I saw, that one of our entrepreneur, Rupali Shinde, she's running the business of musical instrument. She was also there at the Mahotsav selling those damrus and everything.
I saw that. Yes.
So she employs other women. So first she gave them a training how to make those damrus and all. Second, then she said that, because she want them to come regularly. If their children are sick, they will not be able to come. So she said, let us put aside some money for your health issues also, for your children's health issue. And then she would very smilingly say that it is in my interest I am doing it. If they will get sick, you will not be able to come to the job. So I do think that it's very interesting how women think. Women, when they employ other women, they will always think that if a child gets sick, so plan
what does it mean to a mother when the child gets sick?
Exactly. So you plan that way. So women have this in mind.
The other thing is also about land ownership. So I think land ownership for women, again, in our country is very limited. Now, you have women farmers, but in a way they just remain invisible on the scene because they are not owners, so they can't get credit. What more can be done in India to make the women rightful owners of land and property?
You have raised such an important issue, and it is so interesting. I mean, I say that if you talk to women, they will respond to it so differently. So one of our women community leader, Vanita, she has set up a farmer producer company.
Okay.
And for farmer producer company, you have to have your 712 papers as a farmer. You have to prove you're a farmer. And this is women farmer producer company. So when she went to the officers, they said that, you have to have a property papers in your name. And she was like, we don't have in our names. And then the whole team decided that, okay, let's have property papers in our name. And they started fighting that, why don't we have a joint ownership with their husbands, and were trying to convince and all. And when they went to the revenue office, that, okay, our husbands have also agreed. So they gave a stamp paper that she is a co-partner in my property, right? Husband was also giving it. And then that officer sitting there was also telling her husband that you are giving this to her, but make sure she can harass you. The whole gender social norms are so much against it. But Vanita so smartly, she said that, she had written her name and her husband's name was already there, like tattooed. She said, can you see, my name is there and my husband's name is here. We have our husband's name. They will not have our name. Why would we run away? If we own the land, we will be more proudly take care
Part
of it, right? These villages, we had that campaign that if you have name property in women's name, your village will call it as a Savitri village.
Okay.
And these villages had the property in women's name. You know what impact was it? All these women paid in Gram Panchayat, their houses were also in their name, 100% tax. They paid it. So I to feel like, why people does not have this ownership. Government will earn the revenue much more if it is in the name of women.
Let's go a little bit behind your experiences and your feelings as you went through this journey. You've yourself, in a way, put in a lot of hard work, dedication, perseverance to make this happen. I'm sure at every step there was perseverance. And you saw all the women there having their own struggles, their own aspirations, and so on. What is that human instinct which you feel doesn't get destroyed by any adversity?
So one thing, with these women, one thing I've learned is that just never give up. Never give up. Anything happens. I've seen like women. You met radio jockey Kera Bai. She has a poem. And she's telling like, it is not raining for so many days. In her poem, she's telling that, for so many days, she's talking to Meghraj. So kings of clouds. That you have not rained for so many days. I'm waiting. And she's saying, I'm offering my tears to you, but you rain. So I was like, you don't have anything. And she's ready to offer the tear. So I just think that one instinct that never give up, I think is very big thing which I've learned.
In your own journey, you must have come across sometimes this moment of saying, it's enough. It's not moving forward. Do I want to give up? Did you ever feel that I want to give up? I want to just cut it here? Or what gave you that drive to keep moving forward?
So, many times I've felt, right? Many times.
What were those moments when you felt?
So once like when that was very personal, but my eldest son, he got really very sick and got pneumonia and there were no doctors. And then, I just felt like, I cannot take this risk. And so, and then of course, immediately I came to Mumbai. But my mother-in-law, she was like, we are there. Why are you thinking that we won't be able to do it? I always think, Chanda, that, in different time, there are different, in my case, it's women only, but I always see that there is so much there. Other women are also like so much supportive. So that support structure is always there. You just have to see that,
see it, realize it, and
yes, there is there.
Okay, moments like this, but also there must be moments where you must be feeling that, yes, this is why I do what I do. You want to relive any moment that was like one of the best moments for you.
So once I remember one lady, she was she had taken loan. Actually her husband had taken loan and he left her. But she was very sure that, I have children and then my husband should, even if he has but I make sure that land goes to my children. This lady, and then her husband even did not repay the loan. It was with another credit cooperative society. She came to the bank and she said that, that loan is default. So I am telling that bank, that credit cooperative society, to take over the loan. You give me loan in my name of that property. And I buy that loan.
Okay.
My husband's loan, I buy it. And she found out the way so well with technicalities and everything. And the husband who left her did not repay the loan. She bought that property, took a loan from the bank, and repaid it.
Repaid it.
And I was like, you are such a great person. And she said, you know what? She always, so her name is Sugrabi. She said, I always tell my children also that nothing can shake you. You just have to have a courage in you. For all our poor people, what is the capital we have? We have the courage. So I think, that is like, I always think like courage is the capital.
Courage is the capital. And these are the moments which make you feel that
Yeah.
every struggle that you may have gone through is more than worth it. If every woman who's empowered just kind of looks at one more woman and tries to empower that woman, what kind of systemic change do you think it can bring about?
I see that women, when they empower themselves, they only not empower themselves individually, like they will empower family, empower society, empower community. And I nowadays, though, I'm seeing it more like they will empower our whole ecosystem, right? I mean, what we are seeing with this whole climate change, and what wisdom I hear from the women farmers, how they are looking at it, at soil, at trees, at birds. And you hear those women, when they are grinding, they sing the song. And they sing the song and they say that, my animals are mewing for water and I want. So they have this whole vision of nurturing everyone, right? That is the whole vision. So I do feel that when women are empowered, the universe is nurtured.
What kind of ideas do they have on handling this climate change, as you said, ground level? How are they looking at it?
So with the climate change, I've seen at the ground level, so many women gram panchayat, all women panchayat. The first thing when they come to power, they take up is not road, not bridges, not something, but water. And how do we get it, or how do we make sure that it is utilized properly? So I do think, and then they talk about trees. So these things I feel, I mean, they keep on saying like we have songs of trees, we do sing. So so I think that with climate, women will be the champions of addressing that.
Because they understand it from the ground level.
Yes.
And they understand what constraints it brings and, what positive impact it can have if it's handled well.
And they are nurturers,
yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely. Was there in this journey of yours any unscripted moment, anything that you didn't see it coming, you didn't plan for it, but it came and in a way it just changed the way you were thinking or had a huge impact on the movement that you were creating?
I mean, actually, this whole, it was not planned. When we started this, some of the women were doing a fixed deposit at the bank and they were using the interest of that fixed deposit. And I asked one woman, Paryaga Bai, that, every month you come and you are taking the interest and using it for what are you using? Then she said, I'm using for my medicine. So then I thought like, that she's actually designed the pension product for herself. And then, and this was in 2007, in the village, she was doing that. So then I thought we need to do something. And then I went to SEBI, Stock Exchange Board of India, and I talked to them that, UK Sinha was there and that you help us to do something. And then we designed a pension product.
Okay.
And with that pension product, actually, later on this National Pension Scheme and Atal Pension Yojana.
Yes.
So UK Sinha and Usha Thorat had come to inaugurate. That was not planned actually. It just happened, and then we went to Stock Exchange Board, and now of course now we are getting into this whole investment and talking about SIPs of 100 rupees now. Like at that time we had to convince the SEBI that bring down the premium because our women cannot pay 500 rupees of SIP. That we had never decided. I mean, was not planned, but we did it. Yeah.
And it is so important that, people are able to invest in smaller amounts.
Yes.
Because that helps them participate in the investment part of the economy as well.
Absolutely. And there are huge number of people, right? So economy also grows.
Yes. So now we come to the last section of my show where I want you to just give me very impromptu, quick answers
Sure.
to these questions. Your favorite childhood memory?
Flying kites.
Oh,
I just love it.
yeah. The toughest part of your move from Mumbai to the village?
When my children were growing, their health issues were very tough. Get the medical facility.
What is that one habit that keeps you grounded?
So like I always want to go back to Maswad and then talk to women, whoever comes, meet them, talk them, listen to them. That whenever I meet, I listen something very different from them.
If you were to get one superpower, what is the superpower you think you would want to have?
Tough question, but yeah. What is the superpower? Like a magic thing.
Yes.
I would just say that to understand the cash flows of farmers and make that, make farmers a credible sector for all the financing, all the banking sector.
According to you, what is more powerful? A single disruptive idea or slow and steady change?
First I would have, if this question, if you would have asked me 10 years back, I would say like focus single idea. But now I say that no, it's more about how you have to have a community, and whatever community decides what they want to do, you have to go with them. Make it solid community. Once the community is solid, all multiple issues they are able to solve it.
What's more valuable in your view, a lesson from a failure or a lesson from a success?
Actually, you heard, right? It was always a lessons from the failure from the very beginning. Like the success makes you happy, gives you like more energy, but the lessons you get from your failures, and also I always feel, Chanda, that once you fail, then you come out, then that actually not only just one time lesson, but it also grounds you, makes you humble, that yeah, I failed. I think it is not just lesson for failure, but accept the failures, right? The acceptance of failures also brings the humility.
True. And the failures also make you realize the challenges for which you have to build solutions.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. What does success mean to you?
So I was moving in a weekly market in Maswad. And when I was moving, one very old farmer, he came there. And actually, when we had a very bad drought, we had a cattle camp. Then we constructed the water banks or water reservoirs. And that farmer, he came and he was like, patting my shoulders, and he said, this lady kicked off the drought and made sure that we have animals. Wow. And that happened immediately after I came from Nari Shakti Puraskar. And I was thinking in my mind, this is a bigger award actually. And he was like, in a very Marathi language, Baine Dushkar Galavla. The way that she kicked off the drought. This lady, Baine Dushkar Galavla. So I feel that makes you really satisfied when,
And those are the moments when you feel that every struggle or every bit of hard work that you went through was all more than worth it.
Yes, absolutely.
What is one piece of money advice that you would give to all the young women who are starting out today?
I would say that, money comes and go. It's like money. There are two things, in fact, I would say. One thing which our women always say, that, there is a phrase in Marathi that money goes where money is.
Okay.
Paisa tithe jato jithe paisa ahe. And these women said that we have changed the journey of money. And I really like the confidence and the way they said. So I feel like, it's money, journey of money can be, you can decide the journey of money, but in that whole journey, whatever you learn is more valuable in than that
the
money.
A myth that you had in your
Yeah,
mind
yeah,
about the financial capabilities of women that totally crumbled when you started dealing with the rural women.
The one thing which I do remember now also, that one lady, she had started a business of vending the milk, and then she wanted to start a manufacturing unit of making the bags, and she was thinking of taking a loan of like 10 lakhs rupees, and I was, you won't be able to handle it, which I told her, but she was very sure that, you know what I'm doing. And then she started this whole manufacturing unit, and she was employing other 5 women, and she could do it. And I felt that many times you just don't know, but these women are so capable and they are so focused in the business that they can manage. It's not just management of finance, it's like managing the machines, understanding the machines, making sure your production, multiple level they can operate, which was I never had like seen that type of manufacturer women. That was something very different.
Chetna, very inspiring and a very incredible conversation. I think what you've told us is how do you turn challenges into opportunities? And the real transformation actually comes when you start impacting lives of people who are often overlooked, because that is what brings a real transformation. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all the very best in your journey ahead as well. May you continue to make more and more impact. May you continue to empower more and more women. All the best to you. Thank you for being on the show.
I just enjoyed it.